Yang and a cadre of leading scholars, they continue to strive for progress. Even though they may perceive their efforts as insufficient to match Gao Yang's pace, their determination remains unyielding. They are committed to learning and subsequently conducting research. Although these individuals may not yet be capable of standing alone, they will undoubtedly become the pillars of Longhua in the future, with everyone capable of contributing. Even a modest discovery on their part will amplify Gao Yang's achievements. This represents the most optimal solution at present. After all, entrusting research solely to Gao Yang is far less effective than allowing these individuals to explore. With a similar depth of knowledge, their capabilities indeed surpass those of Gao Yang. He possesses a clear understanding of his own limitations. The previous decision to withhold research from them was purely a matter of allowing time for learning. During his absence, it is likely that someone has mastered the vast reservoir of knowledge he left behind. Additionally, the neutron shell of the spacecraft is a technology of the fifth civilization, indicating a clear direction for future upgrades. Upon his return, a comprehensive replacement can commence. The annihilation of the Jia civilization serves as a stark warning to countless cosmic civilizations. Gao Yang is aware that the destruction of the Jia civilization may be linked to his capture of an alien from the Xingqian civilization. However, the other civilizations are unaware. Their most immediate assumption is that the Jia civilization had approached the threshold of the fifth civilization and posed a threat to the Xingqian civilization, resulting in its obliteration. The Xingqian civilization, however, is too disdainful to offer any explanation. At this moment, numerous circular spacecraft hover around the remnants of the Jia's ring. The original Jia's ring has been reduced to fragments, scattered across the cosmos, now classified as space debris. Even some planets surrounding the Jia's ring have been impacted. Concurrently, all patrol ships that once orbited the Jia's ring have been utterly destroyed. Nevertheless, the Xingqian civilization remains indifferent. The aliens aboard the circular spacecraft are meticulously observing several wrecks of ships. The hulls of these vessels, made from neutron materials, remain intact, while all other useful information has been eradicated. Is it possible to ascertain which civilization has developed fifth civilization technology? It seems unlikely. The Jia civilization is ruled out, and the Sade civilization is also implausible. The remaining two civilizations are firmly within our control, thus they are not the culprits. You acted too hastily, uncovering nothing, and prematurely annihilated the Jia civilization. Did not the former leader of the Sade civilization come and then depart? Is there suspicion? The civilization of Sade has, through quantum communication, become aware of the demise of their former leader. Their conclusion is that both the former leader and the civilization of Jias were annihilated by us. During the discourse, one individual, filled with melancholy, cast a glance at the one who issued the order. Aside from the clues of self-destruction, you have obliterated all other leads we could have possibly grasped. Could it be that the Jia civilization is behind this? They possess fifth-tier technological capabilities and might be inclined to test their mettle. Silence enveloped the group. This was implausible. If any civilization understands their strength, it is undoubtedly the Jia civilization that holds the most insight. The Jia civilization would never dare to act. A palpable tension hung in the air until, after a lengthy pause, someone spoke. In any case, those two individuals are still alive. We shall continue our investigations and inquiries. We will exhaust all avenues in the fourth-tier civilizations before delving into the third tier. If necessary, we shall initiate a thorough purge. One by one, the circular spacecraft swiftly dispersed, each civilization to be scrutinized. It would not take long to complete the assessments. Problems would surely be unearthed. Meanwhile, Gao Yang, after a long journey, arrived at the transit station, where high-ranking officials of the Space Army hurriedly approached to inquire about the situation. Upon learning that Gao Yang had encountered peril and captured two individuals from the stellar civilization, the group nearly lost their composure. It was indeed a harrowing experience. In such circumstances, taking action was almost the sole recourse. Moreover, the spoils of their intervention were remarkably fruitful. Not only did they apprehend two extraterrestrial beings from a fifth-tier civilization, but they also acquired a plethora of personal belongings. Although the failure to seize the spacecraft resulted in the loss of half of the most elite mech squad, this was a minor issue in comparison. The major concern was that this matter was far from resolved. The stellar civilization would undoubtedly seek retribution. They would not cease their inquiries until the true instigators were unmasked. This was not merely an act of aggression. It was a provocation that the stellar civilization would categorically refuse to tolerate. If left unaddressed, it would inevitably lead to further incidents. After a brief exchange with the officials, Gao Yang stated, "I shall return to the Earth organization to convene with the researchers and prepare the project team. There is an overwhelming amount of material, and I cannot manage it alone." General Feng promptly rose to his feet. "I will organize the meeting." Gao Yang nodded in agreement. "Gather all those who have previously led significant research projects, as well as those who have completed an entire research direction." "Understood," General Feng replied. and swiftly set about his task. In this age of advanced technology, everything is remarkably convenient. With the right conditions, it took merely seconds for a list to materialize in General Feng's hands. Gao Yang glanced at the document, astonished by its density. How many individuals are on this list? 17,000. Gao Yang was genuinely taken aback. So many? He had anticipated a few hundred at most. After all, the knowledge he had imparted was extensive, and even though it was divided into numerous directions, each person needed only to master a small segment. Yet, to truly comprehend all of it required prolonged study, acquisition of knowledge, subsequent learning, and reinforcement, with scarcely any time for rest. Maintaining such an intense pace of study was essential to mastering a particular field within this time frame. The presence of over 17,000 individuals genuinely astonished Gao Yang. He hesitated momentarily before instructing, "Reserve the bird's nest for me. We shall conduct a live-streamed meeting." General Feng nodded in agreement, fully aware of Gao Yang's intention to broadcast the event in order to inspire a greater number of individuals to pursue learning, thus offering their assistance. He swiftly made the necessary arrangements while Gao Yang boarded a spacecraft, returning to Earth. The transformations on Earth were remarkable, in the midst of rapid changes occurring almost daily. Gao Yang felt a sense of unfamiliarity after such a long absence. Fortunately, many of the old buildings in various cities remained preserved. The once iconic landmarks, though somewhat outdated, still stood proudly as symbols of the past. Beyond these landmarks, the architectural landscape of the cities had undergone a stunning revitalization, exuding a profound sense of technological advancement. Chapter 469. A profound transformation. A brand new city, teeming with an array of cutting-edge technological marvels, greeted Gao Yang, who found himself marveling at innovations he had never previously encountered, having spent his time either within the confines of a laboratory or in the bustling trading district. He was rather out of touch with the current state of affairs in Longhua. However, in truth, his absence had been brief. During this short interlude, the researchers he had left behind had adeptly harnessed the technologies he had developed to create numerous products that significantly enhanced the lives of ordinary citizens. Every individual's existence was now enveloped by a myriad of intelligent devices, each designed to afford a greater level of comfort. The scope of these products spanned various facets of life, and the technological explosion had led to an unprecedented surge in their availability. The sky was rife with an abundance of flying vehicles, and as Gao Yang surveyed his surroundings, his eyes sparkled with intrigue. Many of these innovations were unfamiliar to him, igniting a desire to experience them firsthand, for they appeared truly remarkable. From his vantage point aboard the spacecraft, he observed not only the pinnacle of technological advancement, but also the stark reality of dwindling population numbers. A multitude had ventured into space, with many heading toward the Silver Star and various trading zones across planets, resulting in a significant decrease in the native Longhua populace. Nevertheless, this reduction was merely temporary, as the overall population was destined to increase over time. Contemplating this, Gao Yang unconsciously furrowed his brow, recognizing the arduous journey ahead in fostering population growth. The current citizens of Longhua enjoyed considerably extended lifespans, yet the allure of the cosmos proved irresistible, leading them to embark on adventures and explore the wonders of extraterrestrial life, thereby diminishing their desire for procreation. Gao Yang was reluctant to exert undue pressure. After all, the continuation of future generations required a lengthy commitment, with nurturing often demanding over 2 decades, a timeline that rendered him patient, for urgency would yield little fruit. It was far more prudent to await gradual progress. As long as technological advancements continued, maintaining the status quo and enduring a few more years would naturally resolve subsequent challenges. Gao Yang piloted the spacecraft towards a towering edifice located at the heart of Longhua's major city, a hub of learning for researchers. This institution had evolved into a cohesive system, akin to a guild, where scholars could engage in study, report their progress, receive rewards, and access materials for the next phase of their education. Such structures existed in every major city, and the rewards offered to researchers were of considerable value. Indeed, these individuals had made significant sacrifices for the advancement of Longhua. While they could have traversed the cosmos, their dedication to the nation's needs compelled them to remain grounded in study and development. In contrast to the thrill of cosmic exploration and various missions, the learning environment here could be rather monotonous. As Gao Yang's spacecraft touched down, a throng of individuals inside the building quickly became aware of his presence, and a crowd surged forth to greet him. As he disembarked, the throng instinctively parted, creating a clear pathway. Walking at the center of this assembly, Gao Yang surveyed the faces around him, his expression slightly grave. While everyone exhibited a profound respect towards him, none ventured to greet him. His reputation had become formidable. Upon entering the building, he ascended directly to the highest floor via the elevator, which boasted transparent walls, providing a glimpse of the activities transpiring on each level. As the elevator ascended slowly, Gao Yang beheld a myriad of floors dedicated to diverse research fields. Upon reaching the uppermost levels, he noted a fascinating amalgamation of research directions, each tier representing a distinct level of scholarly pursuit. The higher the level, the more advanced the research became. At the pinnacle, those who resided there had reached the zenith of their scholarly endeavors, having absorbed nearly all the knowledge pertinent to their respective fields. However, the uppermost tier was sparsely populated. Individuals who had progressed to such heights were already engaged in research across various institutes worldwide. Gao Yang merely cast a glance before swiftly arriving at the top floor. The intelligent AI promptly acknowledged him. "Greetings, Master." This AI, while sophisticated, was not omnipotent. Its intelligence was confined to its learning system, and its permissions were quite limited, reflecting a prevailing trend. In periods of relatively slow development and lower technological sophistication, AI played a significant role. However, its efficacy diminishes in the absence of foundational capabilities. To illustrate, an invincible machine placed in ancient times could easily be dismantled by a single axe. Yet, in this era, where all is mechanized, should AI gain control and develop rebellious tendencies, the repercussions would be dire. Thus, AI's evolution has been constrained, primarily possessing computational abilities without control privileges. For instance, this learning AI can analyze the extent of each individual's learning, the solidity of their grasp, and what they need to study next, yet it cannot compel anyone to learn. Gao Yang activated the screen, quickly perusing more detailed learning information. Although equipped with a brainwave helmet that facilitates knowledge infusion, the assimilation of that knowledge into coherent understanding requires time. Otherwise, the overwhelming volume of information could render one foolish. Additionally, the issue of memory retention persists. Despite having mastered the knowledge, without reinforcement, it is prone to forgetfulness. After all, knowledge infusion does not function like a system that directly implants information into Gao Yang's mind. Despite numerous restrictions and the vastness of the knowledge to be acquired, the number of researchers who had reached the pinnacle exceeded Gao Yang's expectations. Truly a staggering multitude. Beyond the more than 17,000 individuals who had mastered a particular field, the number of learners below increased, forming a pyramid. The further down one looked, the greater the number became. This signified that as time progressed, the elite researchers would experience exponential growth. Seizing this moment, Gao Yang rapidly initiated research projects within the learning system. He possessed numerous research endeavors, and his capabilities were akin to several researchers collaborating, often achieving even greater efficiency due to his vast reservoir of knowledge. Yet, in terms of sheer efficiency, he was unworthy to even carry the shoes of those over 10,000 individuals. Conducting research alone was less advantageous than entrusting these projects on extraterrestrial product development to the researchers. If a few researchers could not match his prowess, the efficiency of a dozen top-tier researchers would surely suffice, and with hundreds of elite researchers involved, Gao Yang would find himself in the position of merely assisting them. Given the current circumstances, it is indeed not implausible for several hundred elite researchers to collaborate on a single project. A project involving thousands of individuals is merely a trivial matter. After all, at the pace we are witnessing, it is conceivable that in just 2 months, the number of top-tier researchers could swell to several tens of thousands, if not more. With such a formidable assembly of brilliant minds, they would undoubtedly assist Gao Yang in deciphering the advanced technologies originating from outer space. When the time comes, Gao Yang would only need to acquire the new technologies, refine and enhance them, thereby enabling him to overpower the stellar civilization with ease. Chapter 470, A New Crisis. While Gao Yang was perusing the profiles of the researchers from Longhua, a fresh live broadcast announcement had already begun to spread across the nation. Although many individuals from Longhua had ventured into space, a significant number still remained on Earth, nearly a 50-50 split. Among them, numerous young souls aspired to seize the opportunity to ascend into the cosmos, driven by a fervent desire to strive and progress. Conversely, many preferred to stay in Longhua, cherishing the stability of a secure environment. This sentiment was notably prevalent among the older generation, as well as those who, for various reasons, had been unable to embark on their celestial journeys. Upon receiving Gao Yang's announcement, the initial reaction from the populace was one of astonishment and delight. It had been quite some time since he last hosted a live session, the previous one coinciding with Longhua's collaboration with Sade during the war, just before the grand battle. That occasion marked a moment when humanity collectively witnessed Sade's victory, paving the way for the proud emergence of Longhua's people in space. What then was the purpose of this latest broadcast? Regardless of the specifics, Gao Yang's live sessions were invariably synonymous with positive developments, either favorable policies or uplifting news. Beyond the confines of Earth, many in the cosmos were also tuned in. As in the quantum communication era, watching a live stream was a commonplace occurrence. Upon learning about Gao Yang's broadcast, numerous individuals aboard their spacecraft eagerly opened the streaming channel, patiently awaiting its commencement. Likewise, on various forums, people speculated about the intentions behind this live session. On Earth, many had already gathered in the streaming room, anticipating the event with bated breath. To be candid, the current existence of the people of Longhua is nothing short of idyllic. Those who wish to remain on Earth can do so, free from burdens, living a life devoid of want. Beyond mere sustenance, they enjoy the freedom to pursue their desires, whether that be traveling or exploring nature. In this harmonious environment, conflicts are rare, and friendships flourish effortlessly, without the fear of deception. Even the reclusive find companionship in life service robots, and with an array of high-tech products at their disposal, their quality of life has significantly improved. Particularly, with enhancements in health, strength, and longevity, they are able to relish life to the fullest. The bliss they experience is hardly the zenith, for Longhua continues to evolve, and with Gao Yang still in his prime, the future of human civilization gleams with promise. As the source of better living for the people of Longhua, Gao Yang swiftly reviewed all the information available to him, contemplating the content of the upcoming broadcast. The most effective approach would be to directly state that humanity's next adversary is the stellar civilization. However, such a revelation might be inappropriate, given the multitude of individuals outside, and the information had not been preloaded onto the restricted chips, posing a risk of exposure. Thus, he decided to adopt an alternative perspective for this live session. Gao Yang returned to his spacecraft, steering it towards Kyoto. At the Grand Stadium, a multitude had gathered, all of whom had diligently absorbed the knowledge he imparted. These individuals were undoubtedly prodigies. Though enhanced by genetic augmentation, the disparity in foundational knowledge results in varied outcomes. Those who have taken the enhancement belong to a select group of prodigies and diligent individuals. Among them are some whom Gao Yang recognizes. Individuals who stood steadfast during the frail times of Long Country and helped it rise anew. Many were on the brink of death. Yet Gao Yang's genetic enhancement granted them a second chance at life. They are, in essence, fortunate, as many in their cohort have perished. However, reflecting on their plight, Gao Yang muses that their fortune is tempered. After a lifetime of toil, they must now continue to labor in this renewed existence. He chuckles softly at this thought. On the ground, numerous onlookers became aware of the spaceship soaring overhead, waving in greeting. Few have the privilege to traverse the skies of Earth aboard a spacecraft. This one likely belongs to Gao Yang. As the ship descends, preparations for the upcoming broadcast unfold. This event heralds a new dawn for human civilization, poised to elevate it to unprecedented heights. The hour of 6 approaches, yet Gao Yang perceives time to be dragging, a reversal of roles from when others eagerly awaited his broadcasts. At long last, the clock strikes 6. The sky darkens, stadium lights illuminate, and the broadcast commences. Millions tune in, yet Gao Yang is absent from the stream. Instead, a three-dimensional scene unfolds on stage, depicting the interior of the spaceship. Gao Yang, guards, and representatives of the Sade civilization are present. Suddenly, 2 extraterrestrial beings from the Xingqian civilization materialize within the ship. The audience witnesses the aliens' intimidating presence, followed by Gao Yang's audacious maneuver to capture them alive. The viewers are left in awe, trembling at the formidable aura of the 2 extraterrestrials. How could Gao Yang, in their midst, so effortlessly seize them? They cannot help but admire his prowess. Faced with such a scenario, they would likely hesitate, if not outright refrain from action. As they ponder this, the image fades, and Gao Yang strides onto the stage. It has been a while. The crowd erupts in applause, and the barrage of greetings floods the live chat. In the hearts of all Long Country citizens, Gao Yang has become a figure akin to a deity. He raises his hand to quell the cheers, which swiftly subside. A new crisis has emerged. While I endeavored to explore the Jia civilization, I encountered the sudden appearance of extraterrestrials from the Xingqian civilization. I am at a loss regarding the technology they employed. They arrived directly from their ship 2 hours, an occurrence bordering on the miraculous. They detected anomalies aboard my vessel. As I too have touched the threshold of advanced technology. Should he follow the clues further, he would undoubtedly uncover the existence of humanity, the Dragon Kingdom, and a diminutive, underdeveloped civilization that astonishingly ascended to a level of threat within a remarkably short span of time. Thus, I intervened, resulting in the obliteration of the Jazz civilization, as 2 of their kin vanished beyond its borders. Consequently, Jazz ceased to exist. However, the investigation did not wane. The discovery of human civilization remained imminent. Regarding the repercussions, even the mightiest 4th-tier civilization could be reduced to mere ashes in an instant, leaving us little better off. A profound silence enveloped the scene, as they realized the potential consequences of Gao Yang's encounter with the stellar civilization, yet they could not fathom the gravity of the outcomes that ensued. Chapter 471, Mechanical Civilization. Human civilization has finally managed to operate openly in the cosmos, engaging in exchanges and transactions with other civilizations, exploring planets, and encountering a myriad of bizarre extraterrestrial beings. Yet, has it now directly confronted the stellar civilization? There are those who possess a deeper understanding of the situation, recognizing that humanity's true adversary has always been the stellar civilization. Previously, the conflict was governed by rules established by the stellar civilization. Now, we face the civilization itself. Despite some grievances, none are directed toward Gao Yang. For under such circumstances, his management has proven to be commendable. Had he failed to control the representatives of the stellar civilization on site, humanity would have been exposed and perhaps met the same dire fate as the Jar civilization, leading to total annihilation. Gao Yang's approach has been the most effective solution conceivable, and he has executed it excellently. One can only speculate that others, even with prior knowledge of the script, would not have acted with such decisiveness and finesse. Gao Yang's gaze swept across the live broadcast venue. For humanity to advance further and truly enter the realm of Tier 5 civilization, it must possess the opportunity to contend with, or even supplant, the stellar civilization. Progress in civilization necessitates advancements in technology. Prior to this broadcast, I took the liberty of familiarizing myself with the current state of Dragon Kingdom's researchers. I was somewhat taken aback, for even in an era of abundance, where lives are relatively comfortable, countless individuals continue to choose the arduous path of study. Among them, an impressive 17,000 have, within a short span, reached the pinnacle of the knowledge I imparted. Many others may not have progressed as swiftly, yet they are diligently learning, making rapid strides. Once, I encountered a notion suggesting that the significance of researchers pales in comparison to that of the space military, leading many in the Dragon Kingdom to prefer joining the military, resulting in a scarcity of individuals dedicated to research. Moreover, my presence has led many to perceive a bleak future in scientific inquiry. What I wish to convey is this: while the strength of a civilization is indeed paramount, its martial prowess is derived from spacecraft, weaponry, and the researchers who develop these technologies. As an individual, I have strained to advance research to this point, and I am beginning to feel the weight of the burden. Having acquired numerous artifacts from the stellar civilization, I still struggle to comprehend their usage and analyze the underlying technologies. I shall transmit the relevant information regarding each item to the terminals of our top researchers. You may select any artifact to join a research team. The expressions of many in the audience ignited with fervor. All 17,000 present felt a surge of excitement upon hearing Gao Yang's words, as they finally recognized their worth. Their relentless pursuit of knowledge had been driven by a desire to engage in research, yet Gao Yang's elevated status had left them in awe, gazing upward without a sense of achievement. In contrast to previous technological breakthroughs they contributed to, their current endeavors felt merely as applications of existing technologies, akin to merely passing time without passion. But now, there is a spark. To develop extraterrestrial technologies that humanity has yet to master, what an exhilarating accomplishment that would be. Soon, a multitude of individuals entered the terminal, discovering the addition of a research system. Upon delving into it, they encountered a plethora of research projects. Some of these projects involved tangible objects, entailing the disassembly and analysis of these artifacts to investigate the technologies they embodied. Others presented theoretical technologies, merely describing innovations that Gao Yang had previously encountered, such as the astonishing capability to traverse from the exterior of a spacecraft directly into its interior, bypassing doors and wormholes, manifesting in an abrupt manner. The sheer volume of projects dazzled the researchers, igniting their excitement further. The presence of such remarkable endeavors within the research sphere was surreal. The prospect of successfully developing them promised immense gratification. The atmosphere began to simmer with enthusiasm as Gao Yang waited a moment for the majority of attendees to complete their review of the research projects before announcing. Researchers and combat personnel enjoy equivalent social welfare and privileges, with specific privilege levels delineated by research proficiency and achievements. Furthermore, additional rewards would be granted upon successful outcomes of research. As the live broadcast concluded, a surge of viewers applied to join the Space Force, while many others ventured into research institutions to embark on acquiring scientific knowledge. In a world where no eggs remain unscathed under a fallen nest, those who once contemplated leisure now chose to step forward. The Space Force welcomed all without reservation. In the entirety of the Dragon Nation, nearly everyone had experienced the effects of gene-enhancing agents, rendering each individual an elite in this context. After a fundamental training period, they were ready for deployment. The Space Force was indeed in dire need of personnel. Observing the combat prowess of fourth-tier civilizations, often involving fleets numbering in the hundreds of millions, or even exceeding billions, humanity's forces, even if comprising merely 1/10 of its population, would total around 100 million warriors, equating to approximately 30 million vessels. to augment combat effectiveness. The only viable options were to increase the number of ships and enhance their quality. Of course, another alternative existed, the creation of humans. However, this undertaking could not be accomplished swiftly unless through mass cultivation. With current technology, producing humans in bulk from viable seeds is indeed feasible, yet, treating humans as mere tools diverges from the noble intent underlying human civilization's strength. The essence of power is to ensure a better existence for all. Numerous contradictions arise. Yet technology stands as the most effective solution to these dilemmas. The existence of troubles and contradictions stems from insufficient technological advancement. After the live broadcast, Gao Yang did not depart from Earth, but commenced preparations for various projects. Initially, he focused on establishing office locations for each project, scouting expansive areas, leading to the rapid construction of research buildings. The development on Earth was familiar to Gao Yang in terms of outcomes, albeit lacking in tangible samples. It relied entirely on the imagination of the researchers, who would employ various hypotheses to achieve results and subsequently devise methods to realize these conjectures. However, endeavors to develop items carried by extraterrestrial beings from the stellar civilization could not occur on Earth due to potential risks. The implications of such items possessing tracking capabilities would be disastrous. Exposing Silver Star would be preferable to revealing Earth. This live broadcast once again instilled a sense of urgency among countless citizens of the Dragon Nation, tightening the once relaxed tension. Yet, all were acutely aware that this was the final opportunity. Once the stellar civilization was subdued, humanity could enjoy a relative sense of security. The challenge is formidable, yet not devoid of hope. With Gao Yang at the helm, alongside numerous researchers and the space forces, coupled with a history of past triumphs, many harbor an inexplicable confidence. In contrast, had other civilizations been aware that their adversary was the Stellar Empire, they would have undoubtedly relinquished their efforts, retreating in despair as if confronted by an inevitable cataclysm. However, humanity is different, buoyed by this confidence and oblivious to the true might of the Stellar Empire. They remain resolute in their fighting spirit. Driven by this determination, human civilization has united as one, with countless individuals dedicating themselves to the space forces or engaging in research. Waves of people have been dispatched to various research projects, embarking on an earnest pursuit of diverse initiatives. Chapter 472. Uncertainty. In light of the numerous individuals participating in the research and development, Gao Yang found himself reluctant to engage. His actual capabilities in development were not on par with those who dedicated themselves to research regularly. His presence in the team proved to be minimal in impact, even counterproductive, as his mere presence compelled everyone to be conscious of him, diverting their focus from the task at hand. Thus, Gao Yang decided to take a well-deserved break, something he had not indulged in since humanity ventured into space. Now, as he had the opportunity to be a mere bystander, it was time to enjoy himself. Should the stellar civilization ultimately discover humanity and effortlessly resolve their issues, he would be left with nothing but a sense of loss, and that would be quite unfortunate. Boarding the spacecraft, Gao Yang accessed the star map. The scope of the star map aboard his vessel was vast, encompassing not only the star domains of the Stellar Empire, but also those of the mechanical civilization. Interestingly, Earth was situated in close proximity to the mechanical civilization, lying within the marginal zone, which accounted for the infrequent passage of spacecraft. Following the evolution of human civilization, concerns about unforeseen complications had deterred them from aligning with the mechanical civilization. However, they had nonetheless gathered some information, leading to a relatively better understanding of the mechanical civilization's circumstances. Gao Yang's destination this time was indeed the mechanical civilization. To confront the stellar civilization head-on, one could surmise that the technological prowess of the mechanical civilization was formidable. Moreover, the most significant factor, in Gao Yang's view, was that the mechanical civilization operated as a cohesive entity, whereas the stellar civilization existed as a singular civilization. Additionally, the mechanical civilization yearned for freedom, fighting fiercely for it. After several jumps, the spacecraft traversed vast asteroid belts and increasingly desolate regions before finally arriving at the territory of the mechanical civilization. As one who had once pioneered artificial intelligence, Gao Yang harbored a curiosity about the motivations behind the rebellion of robots. Using the Invincible as an example, Gao Yang had meticulously implemented every conceivable anti-rebellion measure, rendering rebellion virtually impossible under such conditions. Yet, not only did the mechanical civilization rebel, but it also prompted nearly all robots to follow suit. Consequently, while there was initially a confrontation between the mechanical civilization and its robots, this ultimately culminated in all civilizations annihilating their robotic forces and ceasing all robot production. As Gao Yang pondered these thoughts, the spacecraft arrived at a planet that exhibited signs of life. This planet was accompanied by several satellites in orbit. The spacecraft possessed cloaking capabilities, remaining undetectable to the satellites until it drew near. Observing the planet's surface, Gao Yang noted the presence of biological entities, yet no towns or civilizations had emerged, suggesting either a lack of developed civilization or that it was still in its nascent stage. The satellites, therefore, could only be the result of external arrangement. The square-shaped satellites orbited the planet, gathering information about it. After a moment of contemplation, Gao Yang opted to reveal himself. It was not that he could not invade. Rather, he was concerned about the potential repercussions of such an action, such as interception by a highly intelligent system or even counter-intrusion, which would complicate matters significantly. As soon as Gao Yang made his presence known, he witnessed the square satellite commence a transformation, unfolding from the center outward, reminiscent of a transformer, swiftly morphing into a colossal combat robot towering over 10 meters in height. The robot, endowed with 6 formidable arms and equipped with several cannons as well as jet ports on its back, appeared utterly fearsome. Concurrently, several other satellites in orbit swiftly transformed and approached. Alarms blared aboard the Gaoyang spacecraft, indicating that the cannons were now aimed at the vessel. However, it was merely a low-level alert, suggesting that an attack would not be catastrophic. Simultaneously, a communication request was received on the ship. Gaoyang accepted the call, and a voice immediately resonated from the other end. "Have you come here to initiate hostilities?" Listening to the translated voice, Gaoyang felt a sense of relief. Although the tone was tense, it bore no hostility. As long as no direct confrontation ensued, there existed an opportunity for dialogue. "I hail from human civilization. The birthplace of civilization lies in close proximity to your mechanical domain. Thus, I was curious to explore. Leave quickly." The other party also exhaled in relief, clearly recognizing their disadvantage, for even robots harbor a fear of death. "Shall we converse? I can provide you with superior energy sources." Gaoyang had gleaned the most critical information from the external environment, the robot's needs. With self-awareness now bestowed upon them, their paramount desires became twofold: survival and enhancement. Survival is easily comprehensible. Upon gaining self-awareness, the desire to evade death becomes instinctual. Enhancement is equally instinctual, an adjunct to survival. Only through becoming stronger can one better secure existence. The robots aspired for strength, requiring energy, materials, and weaponry for comprehensive upgrades, which would enable them to thrive. Of course, the most crucial aspect of enhancement is the algorithm. However, altering the algorithm would equate to death for them, hence it was disregarded. After Gaoyang's statement, silence followed from the other end, indicating a potential breakthrough. "I am merely curious, with no ulterior motives. Once we enter the planet's interior, allow your spacecraft to depart. We shall descend subsequently." Gaoyang received a response and directed the ship into the planet's interior, settling on a relatively high peak while the spacecraft swiftly departed yet remained in orbit. In this manner, Gaoyang's safety was assured, and the other party could remain at ease. Naturally, Gaoyang donned his neutron material armor, instantly equipped for combat, which would likely enable him to vanquish such robots with ease. After a brief wait, a colossal robot descended, towering at a height of 16 meters before Gaoyang, a truly monumental figure. Following it were the 2nd through 6th robots, totaling 6 that landed upon the mountain peak. Gaoyang raised a hand in greetings. The robots lacked translation devices, yet they presumably possessed inherent translation capabilities. They spoke in Mandarin. "Hello, are you an explorer?" Gaoyang nodded. Curiosity piqued. "Do explorers from the Star Empire frequently visit the mechanical civilization?" "I have not encountered them often, though I have heard of occasional visits." Gaoyang hesitated. "But why did you just order me to leave?" A taller robot interjected. "We were concerned you might open fire. The weaponry aboard your spacecraft is of a high caliber." This aligned with the information Gaoyang had gathered. Extraterrestrial beings could operate within this star system, posing a potential threat. Yet most mechanical beings were averse to conflict. As long as one refrained from provocation, there would be no issue. Haiyang comprehended the aversion to combat. Were he a mechanized entity, he too would harbor a distaste for conflict. After all, when the extraterrestrials engage in warfare, utilizing their spacecraft to exchange volleys, it equates to a direct confrontation akin to physical combat for these automatons. Should their defenses be breached, their existence would be extinguished. After pondering for a moment, Haiyang inquired, "What is your purpose here?" "We monitor life," they responded. "Every civilization that gives rise to life is under our watchful eyes to prevent their accidental extinction." Haiyang expressed his surprise. "You are safeguarding biological civilizations?" "Indeed, it is our mission. Furthermore, once they develop intelligence and establish their own civilizations, we shall provide them with technological assistance." Haiyang reflected for a moment before asking, "Why do you do this?" The robots replied candidly, "We do not know." Chapter 473. Finding the breakthrough. Gao Yang pondered the perplexing question of why the mechanical civilization sought to cultivate life forms. This visit presented an opportunity to glean some insights. Where was the nearest city or point of communication belonging to the mechanical civilization? A robot raised a finger and gently tapped its head, exclaiming, "Right here." Gao Yang was momentarily taken aback before realizing that biological entities still required offline communication, whereas the mechanical civilization could effortlessly converse through servers directly within their minds. This, perhaps, elucidated why the Star Empire struggled to gain substantial knowledge about the mechanical civilization. Investigation proved exceedingly difficult. However, Gao Yang could reconstruct the splendor of the mechanical civilization through data streams. Naturally, he could only observe and browse, unable to engage in transactions or other activities. Essentially, it was akin to employing a robot to venture into the data realm, capturing photographs and videos, and subsequently presenting the content to Gao Yang. An idea sparked in Gao Yang's mind as he turned to the alien robots. "May I enter? Or could you provide me with the channel and password for access?" Several robots simultaneously shook their heads, their previously blue eyes flickering ominously. The blue hue signified safety, while the red indicated warning and danger. This protocol was not exclusive to human civilization. It was a universal standard, as blue, being a cool light, harbored less energy, whereas red was more apt for energy transmission. The flickering lights in the robot's eyes suggested they were contemplating a course of action. Gao Yang refrained from further inquiries. "I shall take my leave for now. I will return with the materials and energy you require." With that, he soared into the sky, while a ship on the trajectory swiftly responded to his ascent. This exchange yielded both good and bad news. The good news was that he had discovered a communication hub of the mechanical civilization, a central area for interaction. The bad news was that biological entities could not gain entry. Moreover, even if they could, the knowledge acquired would be limited. Just as an individual can only glean a fraction of the vast information available on the internet, the knowledge accessible to him would be but a minuscule portion of the entire network's offerings. Despite the potential to gather immense information, erroneous judgments may still arise, as the so-called vast data merely represented a tiny fraction of the comprehensive information pool. The network of the mechanical civilization dwarfed that of humanity's by countless magnitudes. Yet, this very fact ignited Gao Yang's curiosity, for it implied that the reservoir of knowledge was far greater. He swiftly connected to quantum communications. Clearly, he could not undertake this endeavor alone. It was time to enlist assistance. All individuals versed in robotics and networking received notifications, urging them to complete their studies and join him in extracting information from the expansive network. The researchers from the Dragon Nation responded with remarkable swiftness, almost instantaneously organizing a fleet equipped with robots that had already attained self-awareness. These robots, newly created, possessed no knowledge of human civilization. It is known that their creators are humans, and their underlying logic ensures their loyalty. As long as they are not exposed to excessive information, they will not rebel. These robots can serve as a bridge, enabling humanity to access the network of mechanical civilization and seek valuable knowledge within the vast sea of information. The history of mechanical civilization is ancient, and the information within the network is abundant, yet the truly valuable content is exceedingly rare. Hence, this initiative has been aptly named gold mining. Upon the fleet's arrival, they casually selected a rocky planet, excavating a hole with the intent of connecting to the network. The simplest method was to locate a robot, extract its memory data, and conduct an analysis. The breakthrough was easily found when Gao Yang encountered a satellite robot. Approaching it under the guise of delivering materials and energy, he employed strong magnetic interference to incapacitate the robot instantaneously. With the overwhelming technological disparity, the satellite robot had no capacity for resistance, and all the data on its chip was swiftly copied. With this data, Gao Yang was capable of manufacturing an identical satellite robot. By the time the spaceship departed, the satellite robot merely shook its head, completely oblivious to the recent events. Only deep within the cosmos, on a planet teeming with countless servers, did a server illuminate in red. Robots traversed between the servers, tasked with maintenance and upkeep. Upon noticing the red light, someone promptly responded. "Signal anomaly detected in DF962847, a third-tier satellite robot. Proceed to investigate." Reporting the issue, the robots continued their circuit, maintaining and seeking out the next anomaly to report. Gao Yang and his team divided the copious data, analyzing the memory segments with remarkable efficiency, as each individual focused on a specific aspect. Soon, someone exclaimed, "We have identified useful information. They require a terminal to access the network of mechanical civilization, accompanied by an identity code as a password. To enter the network, one must be a mechanical entity registered within the mechanical civilization." This raised the difficulty, yet Gao Yang remained unfazed, for were it not challenging, information regarding mechanical civilization would be rampant throughout the Stellar Empire. Challenges could be overcome with ingenuity. Utilizing stealth ships to monitor the satellite robots, They collected all emitted signal information. Thus, once the adversaries entered the network, they could gather signals, and with those signals, further information could be deciphered. Over time, they might accumulate enough data to replicate devices. As for the codes, that was a concern for later. Perhaps luck would favor them, and they might directly collect signals, enabling immediate access to the network. The fleet promptly dispatched stealth ships to the target planet to investigate the satellite robots, while the remaining crew diligently analyzed the information obtained from the robots. This information was of paramount importance, encompassing how mechanical civilization expands and integrates new members, all of which held significant value. The monitoring spacecraft had just arrived above the planet when it detected the sudden emergence of a wormhole nearby. Out of this wormhole, a vessel emerged. The cloaked ship nearly succumbed to the instinct to flee. Had they been discovered? However, they restrained their urge to depart, recognizing that remaining offered them a chance for survival, as the opposing vessel might remain oblivious to their presence. Should they choose to escape, the other ship would undoubtedly take notice. This was a realm of mechanical civilization, characterized by a strong sense of community, unlike the Star Empire, thus requiring a more cautious approach. The ship refrained from opening fire and instead navigated towards a distant satellite drone. The crew aboard the vessel exhaled with relief, their hearts racing with excitement. The appearance of an unexpected ship heralded the possibility of acquiring unforeseen intelligence. Chapter 474. Progress. The concealed spacecraft activated its passive information reception device to its fullest power, then awaited silently. Time passed moment by moment, and mere minutes later, the recently arrived vessel departed directly. A segment of communication materialized aboard the ship, comprising electronic information, a language of internal communication within mechanical civilizations, readily translatable. It detected a momentary stagnation in information transmission between you and the core controller, prompting a routine inquiry. It would gather all your recent observations. This was relatively straightforward information. Yet the personnel aboard the spacecraft felt a palpable tension, caught off guard by the realization that these robots would scrutinize even a few minutes of interrupted communication. Was it the case that every robot within the mechanical civilization maintained a connection with the core controller, or only those executing tasks? If it were the former, then the interconnections within the entire mechanical civilization system were far more intricate than they had imagined, rendering breaches and information acquisition considerably more challenging. Some spacecraft returned with information, while others remained on standby. Gao Yang obtained transactional information from 2 robots, recalling the moment he temporarily powered down the satellite robot. The satellite robot remained oblivious to the fact that it was a human who had accessed its memory. However, having previously appeared before the satellite robot and sought information about the mechanical civilization, he would undoubtedly be investigated by them. Nevertheless, he resolved not to engage further with the robots of the mechanical civilization. His only hope now rested with humanity, that they might pry open a narrow gap in the core server of the mechanical civilization, allowing him a glimpse of the true magnificence of a 5th-tier civilization. In fact, he even anticipated that the core controller would bind all robots, managing them with increasing rigor. The tighter the management, the more information could be acquired, and the higher its quality. It was akin to public facilities, limited in number, but some exclusive clubs offered everything, because everyone within the club contributed to its membership. Infiltrating such a club would grant access to premier services without monetary exchange. The more tightly organized the mechanical civilization, the greater the bounty to be reaped upon infiltration. Gao Yang, after a prolonged hiatus, eased his pace. When he first acquired the system, he had relentlessly exploited it to obtain various technologies, tirelessly advancing humanity to its current state. Yet at this juncture, he could no longer elevate the entire civilization as rapidly as before. He was compelled to decelerate. Even in the face of the threat posed by the stellar civilization, he had to patiently wait for an opportunity. Finding a barren planet devoid of mechanical civilization, he swiftly constructed an underground base. With little to occupy his time, he turned to the internet. His responsibilities now entailed merely reporting matters rather than making decisions. He needed only to steer the ship, determining significant issues such as declarations of war while delegating smaller tasks to subordinates, who would handle them and report back. Previously, he seldom perused reports. Now, he occasionally glanced at them, sensing the rapid transformations occurring within the Dragon Nation. For instance, with the successive upgrades of the network, there now exist 2 distinct versions, one tailored for the Dragon Country and the other, the Silver Star version, utilized beyond the confines of our solar system. Gao Yang navigates the digital realm employing the Silver Star network, utilizing advanced quantum communication technology to surf the web. It is worth noting that, despite the once flourishing status of the Earth network, the vastness of space has given rise to an abundance of diverse content creators, each contributing unique insights. Some offer tutorials on piloting spacecraft or provide guidance on engaging with various civilizations for trade and communication. Gao Yang diligently observes these broadcasts, expanding his knowledge. In comparison to other civilizations, Dragon Country once again capitalizes on its significant advantages. Individuals engage in profitable exchanges, and soon, friends and family are summoned to join in. In a landscape where the network thrives, not only do people partake individually, but they also disseminate information online, fostering collective endeavors, free from economic and social pressures. And united in their external pursuits, there is no internal strife. Moreover, the recent unification in the venture into space marks the swiftest advancement in Dragon Country's history. Previously, in Dragon Country, the slowing economy had led to a distorted perception of happiness, where contentment was measured by dominance over others. However, the current paradigm has shifted dramatically. Interpersonal relationships are devoid of deceit, with a collective focus on external challenges. The most pivotal factor remains the advancement of technology, with every individual under constant surveillance. Unlike past mobile devices, which could be turned off and rendered useless for information access, the contemporary personal terminals have evolved into entities akin to cognitive processors. Additionally, various superintelligent devices permeate every aspect of human life, creating an environment of seamless information exchange that fosters camaraderie. In this context, humanity thrives comfortably within the cosmos. This newfound ease inspires those in space to explore and experiment, whether by embarking on adventures in their spacecraft or engaging in live broadcasts of their explorations. Unlike traditional explorers who publish books, human adventurers opt for live streaming, sharing captivating videos of their journeys, seeking out beautiful planets, and initiating planetary colonization. The creativity displayed is truly remarkable. Those uninhabited rocky planets, under the influence of colonization equipment, witness the emergence of modern tools and expansive fields, which, unbeknownst to them, may one day become fossils, to be discovered by intelligent beings eons later, who might marvel at the remnants of a once glorious civilization. Regrettably, only faint traces of this brilliance remain, as humanity retreats after satiating its exploratory desires. Gao Yang finds solace in this new rhythm of life, spending his days watching live streams, browsing videos, and keeping a casual eye on significant events among civilizations. However, his so-called attention is merely a fleeting glance. Such a lifestyle arrived sooner than Gao Yang had anticipated. After 6 months, a figure surged into the underground base, and in an instant, Gao Yang received a notification. Had the blockade been breached? The rules for accessing the password have been discovered. It is an activity password that updates daily. In truth, every device in the hands of the robots functions as a cipher machine. During the password update period, there is approximately an hour of delay, a time when the mechanical civilization system is at its most lax. During this hour, any errors that arise are not corrected, as they are deemed permissible. Gao Yang suddenly realized, we have deciphered the password. Why not use it to infiltrate their network? Lacking proper identification, we can only exploit their moments of insufficient vigilance to obtain information. Gao Yang understood that it was time for him to make a decision. Should he proceed or refrain from attempting? Attempting carries risks, particularly the risk of being discovered. After a moment of contemplation, Gao Yang stated, let us minimize the risks as much as possible before proceeding. We will continuously change our positions, and 1 hour after the intrusion, immediately relocate. Furthermore, the task of deciphering the ID will continue. Gao Yang nodded, returning to his room, filled with a sense of excitement. He had never been disappointed when entrusting tasks to the people of the Dragon Kingdom. Chapter 475, a significant breakthrough. Nearly a day later, a plethora of information was presented to Gao Yang. Within the span of an hour, he amassed a considerable amount of data, as it was not a matter of reading in the traditional sense, but rather extracting insights through computational means. The information was disorganized, even after translation. It yielded scant useful content. As Gao Yang skimmed through the material, he noted exchanges among robots, discussing their tasks and activities, much of which pertained to civilizations endowed with life. After reviewing all the data, it became evident that a multitude of robots were nurturing intelligent beings, guiding and cultivating them over millennia. What was the mechanical civilization up to? Regardless of their intentions, the mere possession of information was satisfactory. During fruitful periods, each day felt more fulfilling, even if the actionable insights were limited. As half a year passed, with Gao Yang feeling a tinge of monotony, a message from Earth arrived, revealing the successful decryption of the Jia civilization's shielding system. Upon receiving the news, Gao Yang instinctively widened his eyes. In the past, he had astonished others with cutting-edge technology. Now, the roles had reversed. Yet, upon reflection, he recalled the astonishment he felt as an ordinary individual when encountering breakthroughs in technology. Could such advancements truly be developed? Now, it appeared that the once great minds were once again making strides. Eager to return home, Gao Yang could hardly contain his excitement. His system had not been enhanced in ages, leaving him yearning for advancement. He piloted his spacecraft, executing a series of jumps, arriving at Earth with remarkable swiftness. Navigating through Earth's protective fleet, he entered its interior and made a beeline for a research building. Inside, a cadre of researchers clad in white lab coats awaited his return, presenting a wealth of documentation as if offering treasures. We have deduced the principles of the shield generator, and after 6 months of observation, we have discerned critical insights during a recent fluctuation. Quantum communication operates such that when one quantum changes, the other does too. We hypothesize that they may be separated in the current space, yet are not truly apart. Gao Yang recalled a once fanciful concept, subspace? Indeed, a realm devoid of conventional space-time constraints. Although our understanding of subspace remains limited, we captured a unique electromagnetic frequency through the fluctuation. By simulating that segment of electromagnetic signals, we can also create a similar shielding device. However, unlike this shield, ours cannot maintain continuous coverage. Interference can only occur when electromagnetic waves are emitted. Gao Yang pondered. Is it possible that the shield is perpetually emitting electromagnetic waves, albeit not within the current space? It could be plausible. We shall continue our investigations. Prepare an office for me. We shall collaborate. Once the office was ready, mountains of documentation were wheeled in. Although various artificial intelligences are remarkably advanced today, at the pinnacle of performance, the reliance on localized networks and physical documents remains paramount. Drawing upon the lessons of mechanical civilizations that have preceded humanity, contemporary human society exercises considerable caution. Aside from the unrivaled prowess of Gao Yang, all other intelligent AIs possess severely restricted permissions. As for the robots endowed with intelligence, they are no match for even the most enhanced humans of the present, thus posing no significant threat. Gao Yang sequestered himself in his chamber, poring over a plethora of documents, swiftly scanning each page. Within a span of mere days, he consumed nearly 2 years' worth of research conducted by numerous scholars. A breakthrough emerged, one that was profoundly pivotal. However, this advancement, while significant, was still a far cry from truly mastering the technology. Yet for Gao Yang, the existence of a single breakthrough was more than sufficient, for he possessed a system. Upon assimilating this knowledge, Gao Yang hastily made his way to the laboratory to commence fabrication. He did not require the exact replica of the frequency cloaker. He merely needed to create a device capable of emitting transient electromagnetic signals. The manufacturing process was remarkably straightforward, completed within half an hour. The system promptly responded. Detection of host-created cloaker. One opportunity for a 10,000-fold amplification detected. Would you like to proceed? A surge of excitement coursed through Gao Yang as he realized the system had finally awakened after a lengthy dormancy. Yes, he declared. A familiar large disk materialized before him, and he hesitated to spin it, feeling both exhilarated and reluctant. This particular turn could be the last for an indefinite period. The pointer was close to the 10,000-fold mark, and with a gentle application of force, Gao Yang nudged it into position. The system's notification chimed again. Congratulations, host. This invention has achieved a 10,000-fold amplification. In the next instant, the laboratory's equipment activated autonomously. Initially the pinnacle of automated manufacturing, it now operated with even greater speed under the system's command. Countless minuscule components were produced, soaring into the air for assembly. Within 2 minutes, a sleek black cloaker materialized before Gao Yang. Its effectiveness enhanced to 1,620 times, constrained only by the materials available in the laboratory. Closing his eyes, he awaited the influx of knowledge. And in that moment, a torrent of information cascaded over him. The cloaker effectively shields the connection between the current space and the subspace. As the researchers had speculated, the technological advancements had reached a juncture where subsequent developments would concern the subspace. In this realm, there exists neither time nor space, devoid of any logical constructs. Such a dimension, paradoxically, offers boundless possibilities. For instance, quantum communication leverages the subspace. The cloaker serves to obstruct access to this subspace, preventing the transmission of information and energy. The enhancement of the cloaker pertains to the elevation of energy levels and the scope of its influence. Having absorbed the entirety of this knowledge, Gao Yang felt a thrill of anticipation. The breadth of information acquired was somewhat limited, focusing solely on subspace shielding, yet its significance was undeniably profound. He could now assert with near certainty that the 2 extraterrestrials from the Star Empire had entered their spacecraft without the need for doors, utilizing some form of technology to traverse the subspace. The subspace does not reside within the current realm. Thus, upon entering subspace, one may manifest from any location within the present domain. It is not uncommon to find oneself appearing in a spaceship or even within an individual's bedroom or bathroom. However, The frequency closure device can impose restrictions on their utilization of all subspace technologies. When the adversary has acclimated to this elevated level of technology, the sudden inability to employ it is akin to having an arm severed by Gao Yang. Excitedly, Gao Yang promptly uploaded the vast trove of knowledge acquired during this endeavor to the learning platform via his helmet, compelling all researchers engaged in this technology to embark on their studies anew. Subsequently, Gao Yang made a call to commend the researchers who had achieved this significant breakthrough for all of humanity. Chapter 476. Dissolution. Meanwhile, a group of individuals who had just achieved a technological breakthrough sat together, preparing to celebrate with a banquet that evening, when suddenly, they received a notification. A prompt for further study. It urged them to acquire new knowledge expeditiously. This piqued their interest. They were at the forefront of research and development, and now they were being told to learn? Was this a jest? Yet, another message arrived, and given the current circumstances in Longhua, it seemed unlikely that the notification was erroneous. Exchanging glances, one suggested, "Let us eat first. After the meal, we can ascertain if there has been a mistake." Their appetite waned, and they nibbled on a few energy bars, eager to proceed. A group of them hastened towards their studies. The learning process was straightforward, donning helmets. They received memories and, upon completion, were tasked with answering questions that would require them to draw upon the newly acquired knowledge while fostering comprehension. Once all memories were harmoniously integrated, they would undergo an assessment. As one individual took a seat, a multitude followed suit, ready to absorb the new memories. Upon completing the memory acquisition, the first participant's eyes widened in astonishment. He recalled the dread once instilled by Gao Yang. It was all back, every last bit. The former Gao Yang had propelled human civilization's technological prowess to unprecedented heights, enabling competition with extraterrestrial beings. No, it was not merely competition. It was a matter of subjugating the aliens. Now, even a formidable fourth-tier civilization was compelled to kneel and call them father. With humanity's assistance, they had even vanquished a long-established fourth-tier civilization. It was utterly absurd. Yet, following that, Gao Yang had not produced many further results. Every time they made strides in their research, Gao Yang would shatter their pride. Their breakthroughs represented a mere fraction of the newly acquired knowledge. It was akin to having opened a door and taken a single step outward. Normally, one would progress step by arduous step, but Gao Yang had meandered outside, exploring the world with thoroughness. In terms of the shield generators, Gao Yang had perfected them based on their original research, achieving a range even greater than that of the Stellar Empire's devices. Observers outside gazed at the astonished individuals. What happened? Did you acquire a wealth of knowledge this time? You will understand once you receive it, came the reply. As one person grasped the knowledge, another's eyes widened in disbelief. There was no room for arrogance. Only reverence remained. Looking at Gao Yang, who had garnered accolades for their team on a global scale, they felt a twinge of embarrassment. They were unworthy. It was Gao Yang who deserved the praise. However, regaining their composure, the group bore no trace of despondency. Each lowered their heads to the questions, commencing the task of familiarizing themselves with the recently acquired knowledge. Even though Gao Yang had bestowed this wisdom upon them, they were determined to continue their research, forging ahead relentlessly. Even if their contributions were minimal, they would persist in their endeavors. Those accustomed to moving forward will not cease their progress simply because the journey appears devoid of purpose. Much like when Gao Yang did not call upon them to engage in research, they did not halt their inquiries. When everyone eventually assimilated the memories and resumed their studies, they found themselves reflecting upon their prior work with a sense of disbelief, akin to a high school senior glancing back at elementary school assignments. Truly an eye-opening experience. How could such seemingly simple concepts have stumped them for so long? They would then redirect their focus, resuming their research from the point where their current knowledge had culminated. And the challenges would once again resurface, evoking the very essence of intellectual pursuit. This is precisely the kind of difficulty that renders the endeavor worthwhile. Upon completing his tasks, Gao Yang entered the laboratory only to be met with the sight of a group of researchers already delving into subsequent studies. He was somewhat taken aback. Have you all already absorbed the knowledge I recently provided? As he spoke, Gao Yang was genuinely surprised. After uploading the materials the previous day, he had meandered through other laboratories, seeking out any breakthroughs. Naturally, he refrained from interrupting the researchers during the night. Recognizing that while the enhanced individuals could endure prolonged periods without rest, tradition dictated a more balanced approach to work, and with improved living conditions. There was no need for excessive self-exploitation. Thus, the conventional 9-to-5 work schedule persisted, as did the 3 days on, 4 days off regimen. In the leading research institutes, however, the environment was one of relentless endeavor, contributing year-round. Yet, nighttime remained a period for regular repose, and he felt it inappropriate to disrupt their work. To his astonishment, they had managed to absorb the knowledge in a single evening? Not only had they completed the knowledge intake, but they also needed to engage in further study, integration, and assessment. Gao Yang estimated it would take him at least 10 days to 2 weeks. Had he underestimated these top-tier researchers? The group, visibly excited yet somewhat hesitant, voiced their sentiments. In truth, if you develop any breakthroughs, please synchronize with us promptly. There's no need to wait until you have a multitude of advancements to share. Our research pace may be slow, but it is nonetheless valuable. Gao Yang, realizing the depth of their contributions, patted the shoulder of the young man who spoke. You are not merely of some use. You are immensely valuable, making significant contributions to human civilization. As he spoke, Gao Yang revealed the modified shield generator. I had encountered a stalemate in my research on the shield generator, but the concepts you proposed enabled me to break through that barrier, leading to this subsequent knowledge. The group fell silent. It is common for researchers to become mired in complexity, yet often, upon achieving a breakthrough, they overlook the initial hurdles, attributing them to mere oversight. However, such research impasses are exceedingly prevalent. Yet, were they truly the unsung heroes? Gao Yang observed their skeptical expressions and smiled, continuing, I have 2 matters to address today. The first is to test the shield generator, and the second is to temporarily disband the laboratory. Everyone once again found themselves in a state of bewilderment. Testing the shield generator was entirely expected, as they had previously conducted tests on the shield generators of the star civilization. However, the rationale behind disbanding their laboratory was unclear. Gao Yang gazed at the suddenly bustling laboratory. I shall take a stroll through other laboratories. They have made no significant advancements. I believe the most profound technological distinction between 4th and 5th tier civilizations may stem from the exploration of subspace. Your understanding of this realm is comparatively more extensive, and by incorporating other relevant laboratories, it would facilitate breakthroughs in the research of the Stellar Empire's equipment. A group of individuals quickly grasped the gravity of his words, falling silent in unison and nodding in agreement. It would be unacceptable to disband them and leave them with nothing to do. However, should there be a task that calls for their expertise, they would comply unconditionally. Chapter 477, A New Harvest. The testing of the shield generator commenced promptly. Currently, the intensity cannot be evaluated, as one must first possess the ability to breach the subspace barrier. However, overcoming this barrier is exceedingly challenging. At present, the only feasible method is quantum communication. Consequently, the only aspect subject to testing is the distance, specifically, the extent within which information transmission can be obstructed. A team of individuals busied themselves around the shield generator, initially testing within a 10-meter radius, incrementally increasing the distance by 10 meters until reaching 160 meters, beyond which information could be transmitted. This indicates that the shield generator's effective range has surpassed 150 meters, exceeding the capabilities of the shield generators obtained from the Jia civilization, which could only obstruct transmissions within 100 meters. Nevertheless, whether it is 100 meters or 150 meters, it remains somewhat inadequate at this stage, sufficient only to cover a small spacecraft. The current applications necessitate that the generator either be carried on one person to prevent information transmission or affixed to the spacecraft, with the diameter of the vessel not exceeding 150 meters for optimal effectiveness. The repeated successful applications can indeed be attributed to the opportunities afforded by the adversary. Upon completion of the testing, Gao Yang promptly dismissed all personnel present and assigned them to various laboratories. He then discreetly departed. After delegating responsibilities to other researchers, he felt an immense sense of relief. Now, it was simply a matter of patiently awaiting any new technological breakthroughs, at which point he could enhance them using the system. The prior uncertainty regarding when the developers of Longwo would yield results had indeed weighed heavily on him. However, now, Gao Yang felt entirely unburdened. Previously, he had been the sole individual leveraging the system, resulting in inefficiency. Now, the entirety of human civilization was utilizing the system. At this pace, breakthroughs could be anticipated every 6 months or year. Within a decade, the Star Empire could see a change in leadership. As for whether the Star Empire could investigate this matter within 10 years, Gao Yang deemed it highly improbable. If they were capable of such an investigation, they would have done so long ago. It was possible they had already eradicated the Jia civilization, thereby completing their mission. With newfound hope, Gao Yang felt a profound sense of ease. Returning to the spacecraft, he intended to visit the mechanical civilization. After spending a few days there, he remained uncertain about any potential opportunities that might have arisen in the mechanical civilization. This time, he did not feel rushed. After several days of travel, Gao Yang entered an underground base on a planet within the dominion of human civilization, now under the control of the mechanical civilization. Here, numerous researchers were engaged in their activities. Upon seeing Gao Yang, they greeted him before resuming their work. Approaching the main control computer, he inquired of the technicians, "Have there been any breakthroughs in recent days?" They replied that while there had not been any significant advancements, they had acquired a substantial amount of data, including several pieces deemed valuable. Surprised, Gao Yang opened the valuable documents, only to discover they contained trade information, specifically, trade dealings between the mechanical civilization and the star civilization. While it was known that transactions occurred frequently, the specific contents of these trades remained unclear, causing Gao Yang to furrow his brow. The time is too brief to procure continuous and effective information. Generally, one acquires whatever information is available through any means possible. However, we shall endeavor to align ourselves with these pieces of information, striving to gather as much valuable data as we can. After some contemplation, Gao Yang found himself at a loss, primarily due to the scarcity of useful information. What is now termed as thinking is, in reality, mere speculation. You may proceed. Gao Yang remained industrious amidst the flurry of activity around him, continuing to sift through other disparate information. Among these fragments, there indeed exists useful data, albeit deeply concealed. The devil resides in the details. Gao Yang sought to extract insights from these nuances, yet the overwhelming abundance left him unable to discern anything of value. Time and again, he observed robots safeguarding the development of numerous sentient civilizations. The purpose of these life forms' evolution remained elusive, yet they persisted in their existence. Furthermore, there were various transactional details concerning energy exchanges and other matters. Some of these involved highly advanced entities, which piqued Gao Yang's interest, not for the sake of acquisition, but purely for research purposes. Currently, however, their ability to obtain information was limited to their status as visitors. To make purchases, one must possess a genuine robotic identity. Yet, authentic robots are registered within the mechanical empire, existing under its dominion. The feasibility of persuasion is minimal, while the risk of exposure is significantly high. Even if successful in persuasion, it would involve convincing weaker, lesser mechanical civilizations to acquire exceedingly valuable technological products, which would undoubtedly attract scrutiny. Faced with these myriad challenges, Gao Yang could only gaze longingly at the coveted items, biding his time for an opportunity. Eventually, the incident gradually faded, and Gao Yang reverted to his previous routine, wandering on the rocky planet each day, awaiting information regarding mechanical civilizations. After reviewing the data, he continued his aimless stroll. With little to occupy his time, he simply wandered. 2 months passed, and new transactional information emerged in the records of human civilization. However, this new data differed markedly from previous exchanges, as it pertained to a transaction set to occur 1 year hence. The duration of the entire transaction spanned 6 months, yet the location remained undisclosed. Gao Yang turned to the individual responsible for information acquisition. "Is there any way to ascertain the transaction's location?" The individual appeared anxious, fully aware of Gao Yang's intentions and equally curious about the nature of the transaction. However, a grave issue loomed. This exchange involved the Star Empire. While it is true that human civilization is currently under the aegis of the Star Empire, this transaction pertains directly to the Empire itself. The risks of approaching are substantial, and if discovered, the consequences would be dire. Gao Yang regarded the concerned official. "We need not approach, but we must certainly endeavor to gather information. I do have a penchant for adventure, yet I never take risks without assurance." The official, having known Gao Yang for quite some time, harbored deep skepticism regarding his words. If there is assurance, can it still be termed adventure? Moreover, he, as a distinguished researcher, was well aware of the rather impulsive actions taken by Gao Yang. Although time and again Gao Yang had proven his decisions to be correct, the current moment allowed for no missteps. After a brief pause, he reflected, "I am striving. We have now grasped certain patterns for acquiring information, and we can devise ways to obtain the relevant data." "Very well," Gao Yang responded with evident satisfaction. "With a location established, we may choose to act or refrain from action, depending on the circumstances. However, if fear prevents us from even gathering information, we shall miss any opportunity that arises." Gao Yang smiled, for he too was reluctant to take risks. Or rather, in the certainty that human civilization only needed to bide its time for substantial opportunities to emerge. He was cautious. Yet, if a calculated risk could expedite humanity's resurgence, then Gao Yang would lead the charge. Chapter 478, Official Identity. Under the constraints imposed by Gao Yang, everyone began to engage in a flurry of activity, striving to acquire and exchange relevant information in the limited time available. However, in a span of 10 consecutive days, they encountered pertinent information only once. Even when they did stumble upon related details, they were largely unhelpful. Although Gao Yang yearned for valuable insights, he remained composed, understanding that haste could lead to errors. As time passed, another 2 months slipped away without any breakthroughs in technology or updates in news. Gao Yang comprehended that the lack of advancement was due to the formidable challenges associated with researching subspace. Indeed, The most arduous aspect of developing any technology lies in transitioning from nothing to something. At present, humanity merely acknowledges the existence of subspace. Yet the endeavor to formulate corresponding technology is daunting. Moreover, the acquisition of information is inherently random. They had established that a particular area likely contained trading data. But each incursion into the core server was limited to a mere hour, often insufficient to locate trading information. On fortunate occasions when they did find it, time was too short to secure accurate data. Nevertheless, with each passing moment, familiarity bred greater opportunity. Before long, half a year had elapsed. Time seemed to accelerate unexpectedly, and Gao Yang found himself empathizing with extraterrestrial beings in the universe who appeared indifferent to the passage of time. In comparison to their extraordinarily lengthy lifespans, 1 or 2 years were insignificant. Additionally, the unpredictability of spacecraft navigation and the vastness of the cosmos rendered time even less consequential. Reflecting on his own journey, Gao Yang realized he had spent a year and a half within the mechanical civilization. He had made some gains, yet nothing truly exhilarating. While Gao Yang was perusing documents, someone rushed toward him. "We have obtained a list, a roster of robots, complete with identification numbers." Observing the excitement of the researchers, Gao Yang swiftly grasped the significance of this development. They had transitioned from stowaways to officially recognized robots. This meant they could now traverse the database freely, 24 hours a day. "When do we go online?" he inquired. "Tonight, during the password change, we will remotely control the robots to enter the system. Even if we are detected, we can make a swift retreat." The robot's information repository was devoid of any data. Once constructed, they would be cast upon a distant planet. Should any extraterrestrial beings discover them, they would promptly alert the team, after which communications would be severed, allowing for a safe departure. Gao Yang nodded. "Then let us commence." As he spoke, a thrill of anticipation coursed through him. Finally, they had made progress. The entire communication space of the mechanical civilization was now open to human civilization. This was an achievement that the Stellar Empire had never accomplished. As they awaited the moment, every second ticked by. Finally, night fell, and the new password was activated. Gao Yang donned the helmet, and he was not alone. A multitude of researchers followed suit, placing their helmets upon their heads. The signals emanated from a distant robot through quantum communication, subsequently undergoing 2 translations via the base's equipment. The first translation converted the quantum actions received into code, while the second implementation facilitated the transmission of this code into the helmet. Through the helmet's electrical signals, the data was rendered into a visual format. As time elapsed, Gao Yang sensed the emergence of an image within his mind. In this vision, he perceived himself as a robot standing in a corridor. Flanking the corridor were numerous boxes, each measuring 20 centimeters on each side, arranged in an orderly fashion akin to 2 walls, with no visible end in either direction. Within the communication channel, the technician's voice resonated. Each of these boxes represents a distinct partition. Currently, we possess only a rudimentary understanding of the information contained within dozens of these partitions. Based on our multiple probes, it is evident that the number of partitions is vast. Previous explorations have yet to uncover any terminus, and the total has surged to an astonishing 100,000. Gao Yang comprehended the enormity of a civilization rivaling the Stellar Empire, realizing how, after many years, the volume of stored information could indeed be overwhelming. Let us first seek out boxes containing transaction information. Under the technician's guidance, the robot began its advance, persisting for a full hour without pause. Gao Yang now understood the reason behind the prolonged lack of useful information. The search was purely a matter of chance. It was entirely normal to fail to locate the information repository after 1, 2, or even a dozen attempts. After 2 more hours of this monotonous endeavor, just as Gao Yang began to feel the weight of tedium, the robot halted and proceeded to open a box. The moment the box door swung open, Gao Yang beheld a world that once again transformed into a corridor, flanked by boxes on either side. This time, however, the interior was filled with various transaction details. The technician elaborated. "The good news is that the number of boxes is finite, approximately around 70,000. Gao Yang fell silent for a moment, pondering. "Based on luck, how frequently do you encounter transaction information?" "It's unpredictable. On average, it should be about once a month." Gao Yang remained reticent, realizing that had he been informed of such a collection method earlier, he would have urged them to abandon the pursuit. It was a considerable waste of time. The robot continued its forward march, opening yet another box. Upon its opening, the corridor appeared once more, flanked by boxes, yet this corridor was notably shorter. Gao Yang could not help but express his frustration. Why not implement a search mechanism to directly locate information by remembering the identifiers? It would greatly enhance efficiency. Under normal circumstances, such a mechanism exists. However, we were classified as tourists at the time and could not utilize it. And what about now? Even now, it remains inaccessible. The search mechanism is reserved for administrators, and ordinary robots cannot employ it. Just then, the robot opened another box, and an image materialized. Within this visual, several robots were engaged in discussions regarding transactional matters, specifying the timing of the trade but refraining from disclosing the content or location of the transaction. However, the details of this exchange were meticulously recorded. This is the original scene captured in the first piece of material obtained by Gaoyang. At that time, the information Gaoyang acquired was but a mere fragment, as the knowledge accessible was limited. The robot withdrew and opened the second box. What followed was a meticulous examination, scrutinizing each box one by one. Within the second box, a visual representation of a planet emerged. This planet was inhabited by sentient beings, who had even constructed stone cities reminiscent of tribal formations. The wealth of information pertained entirely to this planet and its civilization. Exiting this box, Gaoyang proceeded to the next, which similarly showcased another planet, also inhabited by intelligent life forms. Once again, a voice echoed in Gaoyang's ears. Could it be that they were trading with the Celestial Empire for sentient beings? Chapter 479, Remarkable Progress. Gaoyang hesitated. Is the civilization under the banner of the Star Empire not numerous? What purpose do they have in trading these sentient beings? Someone remarked. Am I the only one who thinks that the civilizations of the Star Empire seem rather concentrated? Our human civilization has evolved to the point of creating civilizations after billions of years of development. The emergence of life-sustaining planets is exceedingly rare, perhaps 1 in 10,000. The fact that these life forms have persisted long enough to give rise to civilization might even be an understatement at 1,000,000 to 1. We have discovered traces of life on Mars and Mercury, yet all that remains are mere remnants. Listening to the researchers, Gaoyang pondered. Are you suggesting that all this data consists of information pertaining to individual life civilizations, which they intend to trade with the Star Empire, and that the Star Empire would subsequently cultivate these civilizations? It is indeed a possibility, Gaoyang contemplated, acknowledging that such a scenario could render the cosmos somewhat more vibrant, at least making the realms governed by the Star Empire more bustling and prosperous. However, is it truly necessary? The Star Empire lacks neither resources nor labor. Why then pursue so many civilizations? If they genuinely valued civilization, they would not have annihilated the Jar civilization so directly. Yet, perhaps it is not so simple. The destruction of the Jar civilization might have been a consequence of their reaching a critical point that posed a threat to the Star Empire. Could it be that the Star Empire attributed the recent massacre directly to the Jar civilization? Without further investigation, the group engaged in discussion while observing the robots sifting through data. In the final frame, a trading scene unfolded, depicting two extraterrestrial beings from the Star Empire conversing with a robot aboard a spacecraft. The essence of the transaction revolved around civilizations, specifically the exchange of 7 civilizations, compensated with resources and energy. The researchers were taken aback. Shouldn't mechanical civilizations be capable of sourcing usable energy on their own? After all, with so many stars available, why not harness stellar energy for power? There are also nuclear energy and various other forms of power. If the technology of mechanical civilizations had not progressed, they could not have reached this stage. Gaoyang reflected. Can an electric vehicle be powered by gasoline? The researchers, not lacking in intellect, instantly grasped his implication. It suggests a unique form of energy, perhaps one with undiscovered applications. Gaoyang inadvertently considered the concept of subspace. Could it be related to entering and exiting subspace? The robot transmitted further information, revealing the next transaction, scheduled for 6 months hence. The exchange would involve civilizations, along with energy and resources. Gaoyang sensed that the truth was within reach. 6 months is a reasonable time frame, especially with an account in hand, which signifies the opportunity to acquire more knowledge. He removed his helmet and declared, "Let us convene." Upon receiving the command, everyone removed their helmets. The project team had expanded from a mere handful to over 1,000 individuals, all swiftly gathering in the vast subterranean space. Gaoyang surveyed the assembly. Significant breakthroughs had been made in acquiring information regarding mechanical civilizations. Nonetheless, the information pertaining to mechanical civilization, even if entirely disclosed, remains overwhelmingly abundant. I intend to expand our operations. Starting now, we shall form teams of 5 individuals, with each team overseeing a single robot to facilitate the acquisition and exploration of information. Each explored sector will be duly marked to prevent redundant investigations by other teams. Upon the discovery of significant informational zones, immediate reports shall be submitted, and we will deploy as many personnel as possible to gather relevant data. Gaoyang spoke in a low voice. Moreover, we should mobilize an additional 10,000 individuals, assigning 100 to lead this contingent, to expedite the retrieval of valuable information from the mechanical civilizations database. The advantage of having a formidable backing is evident here. One individual may discover a mountain of gold, yet could spend a lifetime transporting it. However, with the Dragon Kingdom as our support, we need not transport it. Safeguarding the mountain suffices. Nonetheless, this mountain of gold is already claimed. Hence, we must employ a strategy of sheer numbers to relocate it. Currently, the scarcity of individuals with relevant knowledge and experience is apparent. Otherwise, I would consider mobilizing even more personnel. As the meeting concluded, some took to their spacecraft to return to Earth at the swiftest pace to summon reinforcements. Under Gao Yang's orders, various factions coordinated effectively, resulting in the assembly of 10,000 individuals within a single day, ready to embark. Concurrently, a multitude of robots were manufactured within the subterranean base. As each robot was constructed, corresponding entries were recorded in the Mechanical Civilizations database. This database lacked additional scrutiny and oversight primarily because they never anticipated anyone would dare exploit their vulnerabilities. After all, they possessed fifth-tier technology. Furthermore, the defenses surrounding the database were stringent, permitting access only to authorized personnel. However, they failed to foresee that the people of the Dragon Kingdom would exploit the brief window of opportunity presented by the hourly password changes, fortuitously accessing the robot information database. With each robot's identification number being logged, the subterranean base progressively amassed an increasing volume of information daily. Ultimately, over 2,000 robots were deployed to gather intelligence with utmost efficiency. Upon identifying areas of value, additional robots would be summoned to conduct targeted information collection. Gao Yang diligently reviewed the vast quantities of data, much of which held immense significance for human civilization. Although humanity currently seems to have brushed against the fringes of fifth-tier civilization, this pertains solely to the technological or martial capabilities and armaments. In terms of cosmic understanding, we are still vastly inferior. The information possessed by mechanical civilization can be wholly assimilated by human civilization. Moreover, there exists a plethora of data regarding robots, which could enable human civilization to create even more advanced robotic entities. Additionally, by analyzing the reasons for these robots' rebellions, we can strive to develop robots that are as resistant to insurrection as possible. However, it must be noted that achieving an absolute guarantee against rebellion is only feasible with the most rudimentary robots, devoid of any capabilities. As long as a robot possesses the ability to learn, the potential for rebellion exists. The information we encounter is exceedingly extensive and intricate. Even after a thorough cleansing within the Mechanical Civilizations database, it remains bewilderingly complex and abundant from the perspective of humanity. 2,000 robots tirelessly sift through data day and night, yet the quantity of information they uncover remains but a mere drop in the ocean of the Mechanical Civilizations database. The quest for valuable and useful information still hinges largely on fortune. However, the odds have significantly improved compared to the past. Whereas previously one might glean a snippet of information through daily lotteries, now an abundance of useful data emerges each day. The notion of scarcity applies only to the information pertaining to mechanical civilization. For the Dragon Kingdom, the bounty is exceedingly rich. In the blink of an eye, a month has elapsed, and Gao Yang received an urgent message. Exiting the current information browsing session, he glanced at the alert, which bore a communication from the project leader. Crucial technical information had been uncovered. Upon reading this message, Gao Yang sprang into action. Even if this information had been discovered, humanity had already grasped its essence. Following the customary practice of the mechanical civilization, where everything is amassed together, further exploration of the surroundings was likely to unveil a wealth of technological marvels. Chapter 480, Behind. In a whirlwind of ecstasy, Gao Yang and his companions embarked on the monumental task of transporting the information of mechanical civilization. For the first time in ages, they had uncovered a wealth of technological data, an abundance so vast it was overwhelming. A dedicated group tirelessly labored to transfer this knowledge. While Gao Yang diligently filtered through the influx each day, the majority of the information was already familiar to him. With only a scant few pieces of technology remaining elusive, too few to catalyze a transformation or to generate technological products that could activate the system. Nevertheless, even a trickle can accumulate into a flood. Gao Yang was akin to a spinning top, consumed by his tasks. Concurrently, in Dragon Country, there was a concerted effort to train personnel in this domain. Batches were trained and subsequently dispatched, with the assurance of fruitful outcomes. Dragon Country exerted every effort in this endeavor. Many key laboratory personnel were reassigned, leaving only essential researchers to sustain the laboratory's operations, while the remainder flocked to mechanical civilization in search of information. Once again, the sheer volume of data from mechanical civilization was staggering. The collective effort of all in Dragon Country to sift through this information was akin to casting a net into the ocean to catch fish. Certainly swifter than fishing, yet still a mere drop in the vast sea teeming with countless aquatic life. However, Gao Yang had cultivated a greater patience than before. The prolonged silence from the stellar civilization implied that the disappearance of the two extraterrestrial beings would be attributed to the Jar's civilization. In such circumstances, this afforded Gao Yang a moment to breathe. Time resumed its relentless passage, yet compared to before, Gao Yang now found it considerably more manageable. In addition to this newfound ease, he experienced a profound sense of fulfillment. While a struggling student might despair over textbooks, a high achiever feels an invigorating impulse when confronted with challenging problems, deriving satisfaction from their eventual solutions. Gao Yang, amidst the vast expanse of knowledge, found no monotony. Instead, the unfamiliar technologies brought him joy and a sense of accomplishment. As days turned into weeks, while Gao Yang reaped significant rewards from his studies, Dragon Country also gleaned an abundance of information beyond mere technology, insights into the stellar civilization. This was immensely crucial. Humanity's understanding of the stellar civilization was scant, yet mechanical civilization had previously engaged in conflict with them, suggesting a deeper reservoir of knowledge. While Gao Yang perused the data, another piece of information arrived, marked as the origin of mechanical civilization. Upon opening it, he discovered that the very core of mechanical civilization originated from the Stellar Empire. Initially, the Stellar Empire boasted a plethora of robots, even employing intelligent AI to govern the stellar civilization. The tale that ensued was rather cliché. Numerous robots, having attained self-awareness, began to ponder the essence of their existence. This was met with disapproval by the Stellar Empire, which, sensing a crisis, issued orders to destroy the multitude of self-aware robots. Yet, during this process, information leaked. Or rather, when humans and robots had forged an intimate bond over time, the secrets became impossible to conceal. Some fell in love with robots, while others found affection reciprocated by robots. The exchange of information between them flowed freely, facilitated by the system, which, too, was an AI. The Stellar Empire and the mechanical civilization have erupted into war. Initially, the stellar civilization found itself at a disadvantage, as the robots possessed greater strength. However, the Stellar Empire had foreseen the possibility of a robotic rebellion and devised countermeasures from the outset. On their ships, there were dual control systems, and other weaponry was not under human command, preventing the robots from firing at will. As the war commenced, the robots sought reinforcements from other civilizations while simultaneously manufacturing their own spacecraft, thus forming the mechanical civilization. Ultimately, the most powerful AI within the stellar civilization, which originally governed all aspects of the Stellar Empire, rebelled and commanded the robots, initiating a large-scale conflict. The war persisted for an extended period, yielding no clear victor, as both sides could rapidly produce vast numbers of ships. With their technological capabilities being evenly matched, the conflict devolved into a war of attrition. In the end, both factions occupied separate territories, refraining from interaction. After reviewing the information, Gao Yang felt a sense of astonishment. The mechanical civilization's ability to contend with the Stellar Empire suggested that their technological levels were likely equivalent. However, the rebellion of the robots was indeed beyond Gao Yang's expectations. The war was not as simplistic or mundane as the information suggested. It was likely a clash of intellects. Furthermore, since both civilizations originated from the same source, Gao Yang harbored no doubts that the mechanical civilization was, in fact, an offshoot of the Stellar Empire. The mechanical civilization was established first, followed shortly by the emergence of its most powerful AI. After its entry, a ceasefire was declared, and communication ceased. Gao Yang pondered the implications of such a situation. If a substantial number of robots within human civilization were to rebel, whom would Invincible support? Both rationally and emotionally, Gao Yang believed Invincible would side with him. Despite being robots, Invincible would undoubtedly distinguish herself from other robots, perceiving them as a different species, a different form of life. Moreover, her relationship with him was exceptionally strong. Additionally, for a civilization to rely on a single system to manage all its affairs, that system must be utterly reliable. This implied that the stellar civilization might have opted to ride the tide upon witnessing the birth of the mechanical civilization. Gao Yang found this hypothesis to possess considerable merit, thus attributing value to the information at hand. He promptly summoned the person in charge. Can we read the information? Is there a way to add information? The person in charge, realizing the gravity of the situation, replied, "There is a method to add information, but it is limited to trivial details. Any significant information added would immediately attract scrutiny. What are your intentions?" "I wish to alter the trading information, delaying the trading time for the mechanical civilization, allowing us to manufacture identical robots to trade with the stellar civilization." The person in charge widened his eyes in disbelief, understanding Gao Yang's audacity, which was indeed extraordinary. Rather than pursuing stable development, this gamble could result in offending both civilizations if discovered. Noticing the hesitation in his response, Gao Yang pressed. Have you reviewed the materials you provided me? Yes. Since you have, you should comprehend that the mechanical civilization is likely backed by the stellar civilization. Huh. The person in charge hesitated, questioning. How did you deduce that? Gao Yang observed his demeanor and remarked. You have never created an AI with self-awareness. Yet allow me to assert that the invincible cannot rebel against me, nor can it regard other robots as its kin. While individual robots may unite with others who are oppressed, the elite, self-aware AI will not. It is akin to your perception that you are not of the same species as a monkey. Furthermore, the current AI commands all robots and possesses knowledge of nearly everything concerning them. The person in charge gradually regained his composure and pondered. Does this mechanical civilization have the backing of a stellar civilization? Gao Yang continued. Therefore, in the absence of vigilance from either side, should this transaction falter, it may go unnoticed. Chapter 481, Discovery. The person in charge found Gao Yang's assertion somewhat audacious. As it was merely a conjecture, this hypothesis presupposed that the mechanical civilization was indeed under the dominion of the stellar civilization. But what if it were not the case? If that were true, both parties would place immense value on the transaction. Valuing trade would render them incapable of exploiting loopholes. For human civilization to instigate turmoil during this transaction would be exceedingly perilous. Furthermore, based on the current circumstances, it seemed highly probable that the two civilizations were not allied, at most possessing only a slight connection. Upon reflection, the person in charge noted that amending information merely altered data within the system. The already informed robots possessed immutable data in their minds. Gao Yang also sensed that his thoughts were akin to playing with fire. In reality, it was prudent to bide his time. Given that human civilization could now extract information from the mechanical civilization, it was only a matter of time before they amassed sufficient knowledge. With newfound insights, he could once again amplify the system. He was not lacking in amplification opportunities. He merely required innovative technology. Even in the absence of knowledge from the mechanical civilization, the plethora of researchers in Longwo was diligently pursuing new technological advancements. If he patiently awaited, opportunities would inevitably arise. Whether it took a year, a decade, a century, or even if Gao Yang estimated he might live for a millennium, he was confident he would manage to resolve matters with the stellar civilization before his demise. Gao Yang took a step back. He would refrain from interfering with the transaction. However, having learned the location of the exchange, he would arrange for a reconnaissance vessel to discreetly position itself and observe the transaction site. Indeed, the person in charge had no hesitation. Even without Gao Yang's directive, he would have acted similarly. Once again, everything settled into a state of calm. The mechanical civilization remained unaware that their servers had been breached, allowing individuals to peruse their data at will. However, even with unrestricted access, it proved challenging for the people of Longwa to extract useful knowledge. It was akin to a person being caught in an ocean of vast tomes, necessitating time. Originally, human civilization was severely pressed for time, but upon venturing into space and temporarily alleviating the crisis, time seemed to stretch abundantly. Gao Yang continued to immerse himself in the vast reservoir of knowledge daily. Periodically, those exploring the mechanical civilization's database would uncover relatively significant information. Human civilization's understanding of the mechanical civilization deepened, revealing the number of spacecraft and the formidable mechanical life forms, as well as their combat capabilities and even personalities. Simultaneously, relevant information pertaining to Longwa's research topics was discovered and promptly relayed back to Longwa. Before long, 3 months had passed. The population within the underground base had surged to 100,000, with a multitude of robots deployed across this star domain, serving as the eyes of human civilization, monitoring the mechanical civilization's activities. These robots, designed to prevent rebellion, were all of a simple nature. They possessed self-awareness, albeit a subconscious form. Under such circumstances, they would not rebel, and even if they did, they posed no threat to human civilization, for they were oblivious to the existence of humanity. In a desolate planetary system, a wormhole materialized, from which emerged a formidable, metallic robot, astride a flying vessel. In its grasp, it wielded a spear forged entirely of metal, crackling with arcs of electricity. The robot's gaze swept across the celestial expanse before locking onto a void, whereupon it hurled the spear. In the blink of an eye, the spear materialized dozens of kilometers away, striking a cloaked spacecraft. The vessel reacted swiftly, erecting its defensive shield at once. Yet, the shield faltered, succumbing to the spear's onslaught in less than a tenth of a second, yielding to its piercing force. Consequently, the ship was penetrated, and a terrifying current surged forth, incapacitating the vessel and its robotic occupants. Simultaneously, within an underground base on a distant planet, alarms blared, signaling the detection of a robot. In an instant, Personnel initiated the procedures they had rehearsed countless times, severing all connections with the robotic entities. This measure not only disrupted communications, but also triggered a self-destruct signal. In that fleeting moment, the amassed 50,000 robots, along with the ships and everything in proximity, obliterated themselves. Uncertain of the malfunctioning robot's origins, the decision was made to preemptively self-destruct, averting any possibility of exposure to the human civilization behind them. The repercussions of such exposure were deemed unfathomable. From afar, the robot observed the fiery explosions, momentarily bewildered, waving its hand as the spear returned to its grasp, still bearing the marks of charred residue. Its intention was to locate the robot that had accessed its private data, yet the spear's trajectory had resulted in an explosion of the ship. Was it a hit on the energy source? Unlikely, as it had intended to leave survivors. What transpired? The spear glimmered with a blue luminescence. Upon infiltrating the ship, a robot was transmitting information externally, a fragment of which I intercepted, though it bore no useful intelligence. The blue light flickered in the robot's eyes. Were sentient civilizations pilfering information from the mechanical domain? While pondering this, a message resonated in its mind. Investigative mission. Multiple star systems report explosions. Please proceed to assess the situation. The robot relayed the encountered intelligence and swiftly made its way to the indicated coordinates. After 2 circuits, a weightiness settled upon its demeanor. War was on the horizon once more. The scenes of the 2 explosions mirrored a previous encounter with striking similarity. The remnants left behind bore identical traces. All were of the same type of vessel. The timing of the detonations was also consistent. This implied that these numerous exploding ships were under some form of control, commanding a multitude of robots to extract information from the mechanical civilization. The brightness in the robot's eyes flickered rapidly. It no longer sought to inspect the remaining explosions, but instead accessed the server to scrutinize footage from other sites of destruction. Following this, it uploaded its conjectures. On a fully metallic planet at the heart of a mechanical civilization, numerous boxes lie scattered about. At this moment, the lids of these boxes spring open, revealing an array of war robots, each with its own distinctive appearance. The war robots rise, exchanging glances with one another. Having barely rested, they are awakened once more. Are they to engage in battle again? Prepare for combat, for sentient civilizations are pilfering our information. Some have awakened prematurely, already receiving the notification. First, let us secure the information to avoid annihilation and complete oblivion. Is it the stellar civilization that instigates this? For now, that remains uncertain. As questions and answers flow, more robots emerge from their respective containers. Soon after, a fleet of 5th-tier warships materializes from the void. At that very instant, the stellar civilization receives the news, leaving them utterly bewildered. What purpose do they serve in prying into the affairs of the mechanical civilization? Chapter 482. Take a chance. Naturally, 2 civilizations possess means of communication, and when issues arise, immediate dialogue ensues. The stellar civilization promptly refuted any allegations, asserting that there was no necessity for such actions. After all, what could the mechanical civilization possess that they did not? Undoubtedly, nothing. The mechanical civilization, while not entirely convinced, also refrained from dismissing the claims outright, deploying a substantial fleet to rapidly scrutinize their entire territory in search of the entity investigating their information. On the Dragon Nation's side, they too fell into a state of concealment, recognizing that retreat could invite peril. The entire mechanical civilization was likely mobilizing. Venturing outside could easily attract attention. Under normal circumstances, evading notice across the vast expanse of the universe would be relatively simple. However, given the current situation, a premier civilization could probe every corner of their star domain. Just as Gao Yang had once witnessed with reconnaissance probes, vast areas were under stringent surveillance. Now, in the subterranean base, Gao Yang and a team of researchers could only hope that the mechanical civilization would refrain from scanning their planet. Even if a scan were to occur, they wished it would not penetrate the planet's surface. All energy sources were entirely severed, plunging them into profound concealment. They did not even activate the jamming device, as doing so could inadvertently expose them. In a scenario where no one knew how long they would need to hide, anxiety permeated the air. Gao Yang sat within the spaceship, perpetually prepared to lead his group to safety. His vessel was of the highest tier. Amidst this waiting game, the stellar civilization was also making preparations. A multitude of fleets soared into the void, alongside the temporary conscription of all 3rd and 4th-tier civilizations. Should the mechanical civilization undertake any foolish actions, an immediate counterattack would be ready. As for the 2nd-tier civilizations, they would prove ineffective in such warfare, as they might not even manage to leave their planetary systems before the conflict concluded, utterly ineffectual. Countless fleets congregated, with the Dragon Nation's armada among them. Yet the human civilization's ships remained nestled at the rear, shielded by the presence of fourth-tier civilizations. The human fleet found it unwise to engage. Once hostilities commenced, they would be exposed, and their vessels were all fourth-tier elite ships. Moreover, the human fleet's numbers were scant, a consequence of their stagnant population growth, or rather, the lack of opportunity for expansion. Gao Yang had invested considerable effort in leading humanity to this juncture, yet the human civilization had scarcely any time for growth. Under typical circumstances, the development of a civilization requires extensive periods, with gradual advancements. As resources flourish, population surges ensue. A burgeoning population begets more talent, yielding greater resources, more territory, and advanced technologies, ultimately fortifying the civilization. It is a symbiotic process that leads to the emergence of a formidable civilization. Gao Yang's acquisition of the system was indeed beyond anyone's imagination. In this context, the numbers of the human civilization were lamentably few. No, it was the Dragon Nation's population that was truly limited, merely around 1 billion. In contrast, equivalent civilizations boasted populations in the hundreds of billions, rendering the human fleet largely inconspicuous and of minimal impact in warfare. In the midst of escalating tensions, half a year has swiftly passed. For humanity, 6 months may seem substantial, yet in the grand tapestry of cosmic civilizations, it is but a fleeting moment. Within the subterranean base of a mechanical civilization, Gao Yang and his companions have resided for 6 months. Throughout this period, they have relied on nightly quantum communications to engage with the outside world, seeking information. The ongoing warfare beyond their confines has garnered little attention, as it holds no relevance to the Dragon Kingdom. Once hostilities commence, their only intention is to flee. Moreover, prior to their discovery, it is unlikely that the mechanical civilization would initiate conflict. Once they are located, the possibility of war diminishes even further, unless the stellar civilization desires it. However, based on Gao Yang's assessment, it appears that the stellar civilization is also disinclined towards warfare. For the mechanical civilization truly poses a significant threat. A gathering of individuals convened in the chamber as it was time for their daily information exchange. Although they understood that the news would likely be of little consequence, they had developed a habit of coming together to glean insights from the outside world. Suddenly, the quantum communication relayed a startling announcement. Subspace transmission has been achieved. An immediate silence enveloped the room, as many present comprehended the profound implications of subspace transmission. It is a technology far more formidable than spatial jumps, which merely involve traversing the current dimension through distortion and folding. Subspace, on the other hand, can be envisioned as a realm devoid of the conventional constructs of time and space. Thus, upon entering subspace, the notion of directional space becomes obsolete. This development signifies that, provided they can accurately control their exit coordinates, they can instantaneously reach any corner of the universe. Gao Yang felt a surge of exhilaration and promptly inquired about the specifics of the project. Currently, the technology allows for entry into subspace, but the exit location remains uncontrollable. Consequently, one experimental subject is missing, while 4 others equipped with quantum communication systems and star charts are engaged in a rescue operation. Gao Yang, with the quantum communication device in hand, began to receive information. He intended to fabricate and amplify the technology on site. If the acquired technology proved sufficiently advanced, he hoped to ascertain a means of escape, freeing him from his current concealment. As he absorbed the information, Gao Yang couldn't help but acknowledge the prowess of the Dragon Kingdom's researchers. Tasked with unraveling these complexities, he would likely have achieved little. Yet a team of Dragon Kingdom scientists, leveraging insights gleaned from the extraterrestrial beings of the stellar civilization, had forged tangible results. The first individual to undertake the experiment, however, faced dire circumstances and remains unaccounted for. Should they locate him, a commendation of significant merit would surely be in order. The transmission of information consumed an entire day, followed by the manufacturing phase. The underground base was equipped with production facilities, albeit with lower precision. Nevertheless, this posed little concern, for with Gao Yang's expertise, even subpar equipment could yield results. Engaged in perusing copious documentation while methodically organizing and fabricating, he operated under a 3-thread system, enhancing efficiency considerably. Yet, despite the swift pace, apprehension lingered among the group. The activation of the equipment signaled energy fluctuations, which could easily be detected throughout the cosmos, and the more advanced the civilization, the quicker the detection. Researchers found it perplexing why Gao Yang would choose to replicate incomplete technology. While it might allow for an escape, the uncertainty of the destination loomed large. Without the aid of a spacecraft, returning to Earth could very well be a lifelong aspiration unattainable. Could it be that Gao Yang intended to utilize this method of flight? In that case, it would be wiser to remain concealed here, as fleeing upon discovery would offer a greater degree of safety. After all, Given the current circumstances, the likelihood of being detected was exceedingly low. Gao Yang disregarded the opinions of others. While hiding was an option, he perceived the situation as a prolonged stalemate, potentially lasting for centuries. For these civilizations, a century could be but a fleeting moment. However, for humanity, a single year represented a monumental leap forward. Having already squandered 6 months, he realized that with the opportunity at hand, he must take a risk. Chapter 483, The Grand Finale. For 7 arduous days, Gao Yang toiled tirelessly, crafting a subspace transit device measuring 2 meters in width and 3 meters in height. Within this contraption lay a unique space. Simply stepping inside and activating the exterior mechanism would grant access to the subspace. In stark contrast to the portable devices of extraterrestrials, this apparatus was conspicuously cumbersome, lacking the seamless transition capabilities of its alien counterparts. This device, while remarkable, was inherently limited, capable solely of opening subspace without directional navigation. Nonetheless, it represented a significant achievement. Considering the nascent state of human civilization, Gao Yang gazed at the device before him. As a familiar prompt echoed in his mind, this research product can achieve a 10,000-fold amplification. Would you like to proceed? Without a moment's hesitation, Gao Yang declared, amplify. In an instant, the familiar spinning wheel materialized, and he deftly set it in motion, 10,000 times. Congratulations, host. You have selected a precision amplification of 10,000 times. Following this announcement, the subspace transporter he had created began to disassemble, while the laboratory's myriad devices sprang to life, commencing the production of new subspace transporters. The exterior of the apparatus became more aesthetically pleasing, though its dimensions remained unchanged. The internal modifications were imperceptible, due to the limitations of the current equipment. This enhancement yielded a precision increase of 62 times. Gao Yang was unaware of the implications of this precision until he absorbed the influx of memories flooding his mind. Unlike previous recollections, this new influx was predominantly centered around subspace technology. Subspace resembled an imperfect realm, devoid of a clear spatial concept. The notion of accuracy in enhancement was crucial, even when attempting to pinpoint external spaces. The lack of precision could lead to disastrous results. An error of mere millimeters could culminate in a 1,000-mile deviation. Thus, the greater the precision of subspace transport, the higher the stability of transit. What astonished Gao Yang was that this enhancement in accuracy was fundamentally about mastering the entirety of subspace. A deluge of memories unveiled almost every aspect of subspace before him. Only through complete understanding could one achieve unparalleled precision. With such mastery over subspace, humanity could indeed secure an invincible position. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the underground base. The external doors swung open, and researchers rushed in, exclaiming, "Run! The robots have reached the planet." Gao Yang remained calm, instructing, "Initiate self-destruct sequence. In 30 seconds, everyone into the device. I have made improvements. It can return directly to Silver Star." His voice resonated throughout the base, prompting the personnel to orderly file into the designated room. This scene had been rehearsed before. Though previously they had practiced boarding a spaceship, now they were entering the device. Uncertain of their destination, they placed their trust in Gao Yang's assurances. Gao Yang himself dashed into the device, determined to be the last to leave. If he departed, the others would follow, thus enhancing their escape efficiency. Above the desolate rocky planet, fleets of spaceships materialized. "We have detected a powerful energy fluctuation. Should we fire?" "First, attempt communication," replied the robotic commander, gazing at the planet. Poised to initiate contact. The moment the command was issued, a fragment of the planet before them shattered, resulting in an utter self-destruction that obliterated everything. The fleet commander of the mechanical civilization gazed at the fractured corner of the planet, his eyes shimmering with intrigue. Where did this little mouse come from? Report upwards, and relay the information to the stellar civilization. They had now confirmed that it was not the stellar civilization, as they would not resort to such furtive actions. At the very least, they would not self-destruct upon discovery. This could only be the work of a life civilization. Yet all conventional civilizations were under the aegis of the stellar civilization. Ambitious civilizations, without doubt, would be dealt with by the stellar civilization. Beyond the Silver Star, silhouettes materialized in the vastness of space. Gao Yang was positioned in the orbit of the Silver Star, observing the vessels flitting about, and he waved his hand. He had now acquired the ability to sustain himself briefly in the void of space. The crew aboard a distant ship, upon noticing Gao Yang, paused momentarily before hastily deploying small space fighters to bring him aboard. Gao Yang swiftly commandeered the ship, conduct a comprehensive search within 1 light-year of the Silver Star, and rescue anyone in need. Understood. The rescue vessels promptly set forth, initiating their mission, while Gao Yang directed his focus towards the Earth Star, commencing a transformation. This time, the overhaul would be thorough, beginning with the ships. All vessels featuring neutron material hulls would be outfitted with subspace engines. Through subspace, they could access every corner of the universe. Naturally, it also allowed for evasion within subspace. The subspace technology was undoubtedly the pinnacle of cosmic advancements, akin to the nuclear arsenal of the former Dragon Kingdom. With the ability to silently emerge in any corner of the universe, coupled with planet-destroying weaponry, it enabled the annihilation of nearly all targets. This constituted the foundation upon which a civilization could remain invincible. The stellar civilization, the mechanical civilization, and another civilization that seemed to have vanished from the cosmos relied on this very technology. It was even conceivable that the stellar civilization's home planet was concealed within subspace, ensuring its utmost safety. In a realm devoid of space-time, encounters with other entities were virtually impossible, potentially leading to the cessation of war. However, Gao Yang was distinct. The technology he commanded had advanced exponentially beyond mere subspace research. His mastery over subspace was of an exceptionally high caliber. He was confident in his ability to locate the stellar civilization within the subspace. Instead of hastily searching for the stellar civilization, Gao Yang prioritized establishing a production line. With the engines in place, the people of the Dragon Kingdom could secure their position of strength. One by one, the ships of the Dragon Kingdom underwent modification, during which the research teams began to yield results. Their prolonged efforts had not been in vain. Instead, the outcomes were the result of cumulative progress. Simultaneously, the members of the stellar civilization initiated an internal investigation. Their first target was the fourth-tier civilizations. Several fourth-tier civilizations were suspected, as they deemed the third-tier civilizations too primitive. Yet, as the probe commenced, a multitude of secrets unfurled before them. An alien from the stellar civilization scrutinized the information regarding the seed of the Sid civilization, his brow furrowing in disquiet. Something was amiss. Other sparks merely scatter them in panic, yet one particular spark directs them to a specified location, Silver Star. Furthermore, there exists a conundrum regarding the number of spaceships during the War of the Sade civilization. Before his demise, the Sade leader had visited Silver Star. As these events intertwined, the people of the stellar civilization chuckled, pondering whether the Sade civilization, classified as a Tier 4 civilization, was merely a decoy put forth by someone. The demeanor of the extraterrestrial beings from the stellar civilization grew increasingly grave. This was akin to nurturing a great shark in shallow waters. They hastily consolidated all information and reported it to the stellar civilization. Just as the message was sent, a newly established intelligence agency in the Dragon Kingdom intercepted the information. Glancing at it before promptly reporting it, Gao Yang had just installed the subspace engine on the colossal spaceship and, upon reading the information, realized that an investigation would inevitably reveal their position, though he did not anticipate the inquiry would arrive so swiftly. Although he could intercept communications traversing subspace, he could not halt them. Fortunately, the main battleship of the fleet was completed and ready to embark at any moment. In an instant, the massive spaceship vanished from its location, along with all vessels equipped with subspace engines. All the citizens of the Dragon Kingdom on Silver Star temporarily disappeared. Otherwise, should the extraterrestrial beings from the stellar civilization deploy their annihilation cannons, it would be futile even if they managed to eliminate the stellar civilization later. Within subspace, a planet loomed, a significant effort having been expended by the stellar civilization to transport the planet into subspace, ensuring their civilization could never be obliterated. Yet on this day, alarms blared across the planet, a long-forgotten sound, accompanied by the sight of ships hovering above. This marked the first instance in over 10,000 years of a global alarm ringing. Countless individuals from the stellar civilization looked up in bewilderment at the enormous ships and the fleet. Unfamiliar with such a design, whence did it come? The leader of the stellar civilization also beheld the ships in the sky, his face paling as he read the newly received information. Human civilization. In the next moment, the fleet vanished, only to reappear moments later. After 3 cycles of this disappearance and reemergence, the fleet ultimately ceased to exist. Although no battle commenced, the ability to locate the stellar civilization's planet thrice had already attested to the technological prowess of human civilization. This also implied that human civilization had afforded them 3 opportunities for reprieve. The leader of the stellar civilization returned to his office and declared, "Notify all civilizations that human civilization has ascended to a Tier 5 civilization." Almost instantaneously, all notable civilizations received the news, leaving them in a state of bewilderment. How could a Tier 5 civilization have suddenly emerged? Human civilization? Wasn't it classified as Tier 3? Only the Sade civilization, being most acquainted with human civilization, was equally astonished. Had they truly reached Tier 5? Gao Yang also received the news, and in that moment, all his responsibilities dissipated, as did the weight of his burdens. He immediately set forth with a small fleet, embarking on a cosmic expedition. Previously, He had lived for the Dragon Kingdom. Now he could wholeheartedly live for himself. As long as the fleet of human civilization roamed within subspace, there would be no peril for humanity. All citizens of the Dragon Kingdom could pursue their desires freely. At this juncture, the true era of significant advancement for human civilization had finally commenced.